Something that I probably hadn't felt for a lot of years. I felt as though I had the will to live. I've only been an adult for 7 years now, so I'm only 20 years old, because for 35 years during that addiction I wasn't really a person. Now, I couldn't see what was happening, but I didn't know it at the time that all the staff had been talking to me and they said, we can't work with him anymore. One of two things is going to happen. You're going to lose your life. The gym's here. The gym's here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's you that's not. My life was in total chaos. The day I addressed that, and I mean this sincerely, the day I addressed it, it actually felt better already. You know, just by that. Obviously I did go off into a residential rehab and spend 6 weeks, but that was very intense, working on yourself, etc. The week beforehand, I'd been having some serious issues at work. Now, this is the company that I owned. So I had 500 houses under management. So you can imagine we had up to 1,000 tenants, and I had 50 investors. And my business partner, unbeknownst to me, had gone and spoken to my brother. Now, I couldn't see what was happening, but I didn't know it at the time that all the staff had been talking to me and they said, we can't work with him anymore. You know, we can't work with him. He's that unreliable. He's that, you know, I was literally useless. And we had what they call an intervention. And where it was a case of, if I don't go and sort myself out now, I will lose. My business partner didn't want, you know, we were going to have to close the business. I was going to lose my brother, his family. I was literally going to lose everything. And I still convinced myself that they were all against me and that I was absolutely fine drinking. And I'd been out on the Wednesday night that week for a business meeting. And then I met the guys the next morning that I'd been in the meeting with. And I didn't realise how badly I'd messed up that meeting the night before. And I thought everything had gone perfectly. And then it was pointed out that you're either one of two things is going to happen. You're going to lose your life, because by that point I was drinking every day, 24 hours a day. So literally when I woke up in the morning, the first thing I did was have alcohol. And that could be at 6:30 in the morning, whatever. And that was just to get me to work. But then while I was at work, I was drinking while I was at work. And then I was drinking after work. I was so deeply entrenched in it all, and I was so deeply unhappy, I thought I could drink my way out of this problem. And this had probably been going on for about 6 months. My health I was in terrible health. I used to wake up in the morning and it used to feel as though somebody had a red hot poker and was literally stirring my stomach. My liver felt as though it was on fire, and this would be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was so convinced the only thing that would stop that was to have another drink. But when I came out of there, it was the feeling of freedom that I'd been given. And it was like being, as I say, it was like being let loose into the wild again. So for 35 years, I'd been in a cage with alcohol. And then when I came out of rehab, it was like I had this whole world in front of me. The possibilities are literally endless. When people ask me about, well, why couldn't you just stop? I always say to them, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to have a conversation for 10 minutes, and I'm going to talk to you, but you have to hold your breath. and you can't breathe for that 10 minutes. You couldn't do that because your body has to breathe. You would gasp for breath. And that was literally how it was for me. Drinking was breathing. If I couldn't drink, I couldn't live. I was in that situation, in that bad of a, I was that far down that I was so, reality to me was something, I lived in a total parallel sort of reality to everybody else. I lived in this sort of drunken, I wouldn't say it was a haze because I can remember lots of it, but I was a functioning alcoholic. But that meant it needed topped up. If I had meetings, my meetings were planned around which pub I could go to before and after each meeting. And this is when I'm trying to conduct business. It's my business. I'm selling myself to people. And they're being presented with a drunk man. I tried to replicate what I thought was happiness by using alcohol and drugs. And whereas that really is a mask over the top of everything that's running underneath. So crippling self-doubt. If I was to walk into I couldn't walk in a room unless I'd had a drink. And I mean, that's any room. I was so unsure of myself and how I was and how I was as a person. And what this has given me is, it's given me confidence that I can do something, that I can start something, I can carry it out, and I can maintain it. And that, alongside my sobriety, they run hand in hand. If my sobriety, if I'm not in a good place spiritually and mentally, this gives me the biggest boost I can ever have. When I finish the session in here, when I walk out of here, I feel like a person. I feel what I think a person should feel like. I feel happy, I feel exercised. I've completed my task for that hour, and it just makes me a better person for the day. It changes my mood. If I've got low mood, I can come to the gym and train. I leave with a high mood. When I wake up now, apart from the fact I probably wake up at about 4:30 in the morning, it's dark. What used to happen was we used to wake up in a different way. So coming out of a drunken stupor, as soon as my eyes were beginning to open and I was beginning to be a bit conscious, the first thought on my mind was alcohol. I need to get up and have a drink. That's the only way, because I could feel how bad I felt. Now when I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, the first thought on my mind is, let's get the day started. Let's hit the day. And that's the way I feel. I can't lie in bed. I can't roll about in bed. I can't turn over and go back to sleep, because my mind starts working, because I have to work at my sobriety every day. So I have to wake up every morning and remind myself, you're in recovery, And I've woken up again this morning. I didn't drink yesterday. I get another go at life today. And that's literally how I look at it. I am fortunate enough now to wake up and I can give each day my best shot. The gym lets you come in on the ground floor and allows you to grow as a person, physically, mentally, spiritually as well. Things don't always go your way. I've lost both my parents in sobriety. I didn't drink. I nursed my mum. For the first year I was in sobriety, I moved into my mum's house and nursed her until she died. My dad then spent the last 5 months of his life in hospital. I spent every day in the hospital with him. I still didn't feel the need to pick up a drink, because what was keeping me going was the fact that I could be there for them. I can be there for somebody else. Whereas for 47 years, I was only there for one person. Guess who? Me. I wasn't there for them for those things. I couldn't handle what happened to me over the last 7 years unless I was sober. When I I get every day. It's not redemption, it's not making up for anything. You know, I'm not making up for anything, you know. I'm trying to live a life, and I'm trying to live a good life. It doesn't always work. Some days are better than others. You know, still get curveballs thrown at you. You still get things happen to you. But now it's because I don't have the crutch of the alcohol, but I have the crutch of a strong mind and a healthy mind, that I can deal with these things. So although it's painful, I know I can get it dealt with and we can get to the outcome. Whereas before I would drink and drink and drink, and whatever the problem was, because I drunk every day, I put it off, the problem just got bigger and bigger and bigger. By the time you know it, whatever's been going on will explode. But the only way I could sort the mess out, the only way I could see through it, was by being sober. So that meant getting up, coming to the gym, putting in, you know, time at the gym, everything, getting myself feeling good. Then I can hit the day. I'd been to gyms before, but didn't, you know, I played at going to the gym. You know, I didn't really understand the machines. I didn't really, you know, I didn't know how to sort of put a training sort of thing together. So what do I need to do? Do I run? Do I go on the bike? Do I lift weights? You know, so going to the gym allowed me to take on I mean, I took on obviously a PT, and I thought, well, I'll take him on for a little while and I'll get used to it. And what that did was, going in with the PT gave me the confidence to go in, because obviously after I'd come out of my addiction, by then I was probably up to about 19 stone. So I was big, and I'd been conscious of being bigger all my life. And that's what had stopped, I was embarrassed about being big, but that was because of the alcohol. If I had the alcohol, I wasn't embarrassed. You know, I was very critical of myself, but that was the alcohol that was doing that. The alcohol gives you the direct escalator to the basement. You think you have everything, and you think you are happy and you are at a fantastic point in your life, and they're going out every night, they're doing this. What you find is that starts to alienate the people around you. Maybe you don't get invited to so many things because of your behaviour when you've been drinking or whatever. You know, it loses your friends, it loses your family. Once I got into the gym, and I thought, well, if I get this guy on board, I can do a few weeks, I can get to see what's going on in the gym. And just by working with the PT and starting to put a bit of a structure in as well. It was twice a week I was with my PT, Tuesday and Thursday. I never missed a PT session for 5 years, apart from when I was on holiday or my PT was on holiday. That would never have happened before. I would have phoned in, I would have come in for the first couple of weeks, then started to make excuses, then start drinking, and then the PT would have gone out the window. You know, so it gave me a bit of structure, especially if you're coming out of addiction. You haven't had structure in your life before, so you need a bit of structure. You know, get up, go to the gym, you know, go to work, do whatever you're doing. So I needed to get some structure in there. But it was only afterwards, you know, after a couple of months, you realise that you're not necessarily talking about the lifting of the weights and what it's doing for you, and explaining, you know, how the reason we're doing this is because of this. And what I found was, it was a little bit like a therapy session for me. Although we didn't go massively in depth, although we did at certain times. But the nice thing was, when you've got a PT at first, you don't have to take everything in. Your PT's there to help you. So I could come in for that hour and I could literally switch my mind off. And I just did what I was told to do. And I listened. For the first time in my life, I listened. I didn't know better. Through all my addiction, I knew better than everybody else at anything. You know, you couldn't tell me anything. I knew it all. Now this is like, you know, I was literally being stripped back to being the 13-year-old boy that started, 14-year-old boy, whatever, that started drinking. So like I say to people is, I've only been an adult for 7 years now. So I'm only 20 years old, because for 35 years during that addiction, I wasn't really a person. I wasn't me, I was somebody else completely. So the gym, I could come, I just get there for 6:30 with my trainers on, you know, in my kit, turn up, and for an hour, somebody will tell me what to do. And at the end of that hour, I felt great. And then you start to think, well, I could, if I just came to the gym myself, I could get this feeling again. You know, I started to feel something that I probably hadn't felt for a lot of years. I felt as though I had the will to live. You know, I felt as though that there is something about me to give out to somebody else, you know, through what I'd been through. And so that grew and grew. The more I went to the gym, the more I looked after myself, you know, changed my eating habits, making sure I got plenty of sleep, all the rest of it. And then when I started to see some slight physical changes, and it was actually the simplest thing that did it for me. It was one day, is when I was putting my jeans on, I had to put my belt a bit tighter, and it hadn't been that tight for 35 years. It was only one notch on my belt. But all of a sudden, that one thing just sparked something inside me, saying, look, you're getting better. And imagine if you go again tomorrow, you know. And it was that thing. It was a simple spark. It was that when I was waking up in the morning, actually waking up and feeling good. I'd never had that feeling. You know, I'd never really woken up ever and thought, oh, I feel great today. Whereas now when I wake up, yeah, so I'm 54, I wake up sometimes and I go, oh, is it 4:30? Do it? Yeah. But now I've got an even better reason to get out of bed, because when I get out of bed and come to work, it's my chance to help somebody else to get better. And I know the position they're in, I know where they've been, I know how they feel. You know, going from being total self-loathing and not even being able to look at yourself in the mirror. Now, I don't stand in front of the mirror, but even when I walk past a mirror these days, I still go, who's that? Oh, that's me. Because I was so long like that, it's my natural default position in my head that I am still that person, I am still that guy there. But when I catch myself in a shop window or when I'm walking past, I'm not that person. You know, he's still there inside me, you know, somewhere, but he's quite far down now. And, you know, I take it a day at a time and hopefully he won't come back. But the further that I keep going away from it, you know, the more positive I become. I will never ever say that I won't drink again. But so long as I don't drink by the time I go to bed tonight, I know that tomorrow is going to be okay.